It's that time of the week again, and Bushiroad decided to dump us again with the giant bombshell with the first live stream about the answer of truth, immediately with the VR for Great Nature. So let's talk about that card. Stand up! Vanguard! So we're back on Tuesday again, and of course the weekly live stream of Bushiroad just ended. And they introduced us to a lot of new Great Nature cards, also some Gear Chronicle cards. But the most important thing that we can take away from this live stream was the VR of Great Nature, but also the new mechanic that Great Nature is going to accompany with the new cards in Standard. And let's not go dabble around the facts any longer than we should. And let's dive into the cards that they announced in this live stream. And let's talk about how good they are and what they might envelop for Great Nature. And also the special cards for Gear Chronicle. Alright, first off, we have... let's start off with the Grade 2, because the Grade 1 is interesting that I want to talk about later in the video. So for the Grade 2, we have Binoculars Tiger. And his effect is Auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When it attacks the Vanguard, cast Counterblast 1. If you do, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, then apply one of these effects depending on the unit that you just sent to the drop zone. If it was a normal unit, you draw a card. If it was a trigger unit, choose an opponent rearguard, retire it, and your front row units gains plus 5k until the end of turn. So this is going to be the new mechanic, as it seems, for Great Nature, that they are going to mill one card from the top of the deck with a specific skill, and depending if you mill a trigger unit or a normal unit, then certain effects will apply. And the draw card is pretty nice if it was a normal unit, so nothing really special. You mill a Grade 1 or 2, and you get a new card. But if you mill the trigger, and we're going to see this a lot, when you mill a trigger, the effects are going to be a lot stronger, because you just wasted the potential trigger drive check. And so to make up for that fact, and also the extra guard that it will bring with it, they have increased the power potential of those effects. Like, you give 5k to the front row. You also retire your opponent's units. And you can choose, so it can be an annoying booster or an interceptor or whatever kind of card that you want to get rid of. So this is a quite solid Grade 2 for Great Nature to have. We also have, then let's talk about the Grade 1, the Monarch Tiger, because this is a very strong card. His skill is Auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When it attacks or boosted a rearguard, cast Soul Blast one card, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and perform one of the effects below depending on the card type that you just sent to the drop zone. If it was a normal unit, your opponent cannot call Sentinels from his or her hand until the end of that battle. If it was a trigger unit, your opponent can only call trigger units from his or her hand until the end of battle. Meaning that if you have this thing on the field, you as an opponent will not know how you can effectively guard the best way through all the attacks. Because you don't know what the guard restrict is going to be. Do you need to save your triggers? Do you need to save all your non-trigger cards? The only thing that you know is if they use that booster and you are a Protect clan, you cannot use your Protect markers, because both skills are in limiting that you cannot use your Protect markers, because if they did a normal unit, you cannot use Sentinels, so Protect markers are out of question right there. And if they put a trigger, you can only guard with trigger units, meaning that your Protect markers is no unit type, so you cannot also use it because it's not a trigger unit. So Protect markers already are gone with that card, so that makes a very strong booster on its own, that it just blocks Protect markers. But it can also blocks out even more cards. So this is definitely going to make a lot of wins for a lot of Great Nature players if they can use this card most effectively. And if you have this thing at a full back row, just 3 of these guys in the back row, I think your opponent just need to gamble on what he can't use to guard. And this is very new to Vanguard. We haven't seen this really. We usually know what's going to happen. We know what kind of a guard pattern we can use to guard effectively against certain skills. But against a card like this, there's no way to guess what's going to happen. So we are in the same dark as our opponent that is using the deck, that is betting on maybe a trigger or non-trigger. So this card is, in my opinion, I think of the 3 cards that was released, the strongest of them 3, because it breaks so much for the fundamentally way that Vanguard is playing in the usual sense of the game. Let's take a little bit look at about the VR, their main boss monster of this set, and let's see what Leopold School Hunter has in mind for us when this set will be released. So let's see. His skill is, let's first talk about his auto skill. His auto skill is Vanguard Circle when placed. Put the top card of your deck into the drop zone and perform one of the effects below depending on the card type that you put in the drop zone. If it was a normal unit, look at the 4 cards from your top of your deck, call up to 2 grade 2s or less cards from among them to the rearguard circles and shuffle your deck. If it was a trigger unit, this unit, so the Vanguard, will gain plus 15k and a critical until the end of turn. So that on its own is pretty good. When you ride that thing, you can either get 50k or crit, or you get 2 new rearguards to the field. And as I stated, they are an Excel clan, so you can maybe even fill out your Excel circles even better at that point, because you just got a new Excel circle the moment that you rode into this thing. But its continuous skill make this card redonkulous good. It's continuous Vanguard Circle. If you have a grade 3 in your soul, this unit's auto ability activates 2 times. And the extra information that they state is when placed abilities will also activate 2 times. Meaning that if you just rode from one grade 3, his ability will activate right then and there 2 times. So you can mill one, use your effects, then mill another one and use the effects. Meaning you can either superior call 4 rearguards from the top 8 cards of your deck. In that regard, you can gain plus 30k and 2 criticals on your Vanguard. Or you can have plus 50k in a critical and get 2 new rearguards on the field. For an Excel clan, that is insane. Especially if you combine it with the grade 1 that you can potentially lock out perfect guards. Then it's a column that can easily swing for plus 30, 50, like 50k with 3 crits. That's insane for an Excel clan to have that kind of pressure. And the way that they can power up. And also for if you have seen the promo release from the card of the day, I believe this morning or yesterday, depending on where you are on planet Earth, they announced Zebra, the barcode Zebra, and his skill was for every time you put a card from your deck into the drop zone, it gains plus 5k. If you combine it with all these cards, that thing can ramp up very fast. And if you put it on an Excel circle, that thing can basically be a easily unguardable column that you need to put a lot of triggers to guard against that thing. So, very good card. So as you can see, this is going to probably be the new mechanic for Great Nature, that they are going to mill top cards, a single card. And depending on what you do, they will have a change on the outcome of the battle after what kind of skill you can use. And this is a very interesting mechanic that you can, that not only you as a player that is playing Great Nature will not have a full complete control of what's going to happen, and they need to adjust accordingly to that, but the same can be said for your opponent, because in the case of the Grade 1, they basically, when the thing is on the field, they can just basically blind guard that turn, because they cannot account for the fact what kind of cards are going to build and what they can and cannot use. The only thing that they are certain of is that protect markers will not be used on that attack. So overall it's looking very great, very good, and I think it's going to be a very solid deck. There are already some complications in the way that you can counter it, because Leopold's skill is free, but it's an on-write. So if you're sitting in that thing and you cannot rewrite into another grade 3, you're stuck on a vanilla grade 3 at that point. And that means that it's a good prey for a Zanbaku, for example, because he can just lock it on that grade 3 and you're done for the rest of the turn if you cannot get enough pressure on your grade 2s and 1s. So depends on the support grade 3 how that's going to work out. But it looks very solid with the early aggression effects and how they can pressure for a lot of attacks, because even though they're Excel, I see a lot of plus 5s and plussing on the field, so they can easily hit high numbers even against Forest clans. So it looks very great for a Great Nature in that regard. But let's take a look at my personal favorite clan of this set, and that's Gear Chronicle, of course. And we were introduced to, sadly, only 1 card. Alright, so we have Gun Gear Dragon as a grade 3 with a Force marker, and its skill is Auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When it attacks a Vanguard, cast Counterblast 1. Bind one of your rearguards, choose one of your opponent's rearguards with a grade less than that card, and put it on the bottom of the deck. If you put it on the bottom of the deck, you draw a card. So meaning we have the bind mechanic that we can bind our own units, but we also get the rewind that Gear Chronicle used in the past back in this new iteration of Gear Chronicle. So I'm very happy with that we're going to get rewind back. And the way that they're going to use it, you also can add some more draws to your hand so you get pluses from it, is very nice, because rewind in some decks are just helping the opponents because they might have on-place effect. So they can use that effect potentially another again. So I'm very happy that we get some pluses from it. But I'm very curious what we're going to do with all the binds, because we also saw another card, a promo in this stream, that basically said a great free that if you have 12 bind cards in 12 face-up cards in your bind zone, it gains plus 10k. So it's basically a generic beat stick, but I'm very curious on what we're going to get if that is asking for 12 cards in your bind zone. It's almost like Demiurge numbers, only it doesn't state that it needs to be 12 different names. So, and we already seen another promo a couple of weeks ago that can bind cards, and another card that also did bind, so I'm very curious of what we're going to get. But we're going to probably get a big reveal on the second week of November, when they're going to reveal the skill of my boy, Mystery Flare Dragon. And I'm very hyped for this card. And as you can see, the art it's just beautiful, and if it's going to be the VR, I'm definitely going to get some SVRs of this thing, because I think that's going to look amazing. And I hope they are going to do a similar skill that the old one had, that there is going to potentially have an extra turn, but with a twist that you need to have a lucky situation going on. The old one was counterblast for when you got four different grades. Maybe we get something like that. Maybe it's going to be on the bind aspect, because we're going to bind a lot, and usually the VRs have some implication with the mechanic of the whole deck. So I'm very curious of what we're going to get. But as far as I've seen, the most cards of Gear Chronicle with the arts are on point, and I'm loving it so far. So I'm very hyped for the rest of Gear Chronicle cards, and maybe next week, or I think we're going to get the big Gear Chronicle reveal stream in the same week where we're going to get the skill of Mystery Flare. So when that happens, be sure that I'm going to get all fanboying for the camera, because that is going to be my jam. But that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think about the whole Great Nature cards that were revealed with their new mechanic. And of course, the mystery things about what we're going to potentially get with Gear Chronicle. And obvious, my guess is that Mystery Flare is going to be a grade 4. It cannot be otherwise. It's going to be the grade 4. So, yeah, guys, that's all for me today. I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.